As promised, I'm out here near Tucson, Arizona with the all-new Hyundai Santa Cruz. This is kind of a Tucson pickup truck, and Hyundai is trying not to call it a pickup truck necessarily. They're saying that this is a different category of vehicle because it is noticeably smaller than a Honda Ridgeline. But rather importantly, it is also notably larger than the Tucson, considerably longer in fact. This is about 195 inches long, so this is not RAV4, CRV, or Tucson sized. In terms of crossover comparisons, this is about the same size on the outside as a Honda Pilot. The front end design is pretty similar to a number of Hyundai's recent models where we have this geometric design to the grille. 4 different LED daytime running lights are on each side of the grille, and then when they're off, they look very much like these other styling elements integrated into the front. It's really an attractive design, and they light up day or night. Over here on each side, we have headlights, high beams and low beams projector style in this model on each side. Perhaps the biggest difference between the Santa Cruz and something like the Honda Ridgeline is its size. This is 195 inches approximately long. That's about 10 inches shorter than a Ridgeline. Actually, I guess 15 inches shorter, really. This is about the same size on the outside as a Honda Pilot. So we have compact crossover-like interior room, front passenger room, rear passenger room, and then we have a smaller bed than we find in the average mid-size truck out there. So if you're looking for something that is a lot easier to park, remember that mid-size trucks in America are generally speaking about the same length as a standard half-ton truck with a 2-door setup and an 8-foot bed in the back, then this is going to be an awful lot easier to park. If you live in the city, if you live in suburbia, etc., this is going to be an awful lot easier to integrate into your life. The downside to that, obviously, is the size of the bed. This is definitely smaller than the smallest mid-size truck bed in America, but it's still practical enough to put a ton of stuff in, and rather surprisingly, the payload rating in this vehicle is about 1,700 pounds. Now, according to Hyundai, bed capacity is going to be about 660 pounds, but that's still pretty decent for a mid-sized truck. Remember, there are a decent number of mid-sized trucks out there that have only about 1,000 pounds of payload total. You put me and another one of me inside, and you don't have an awful lot of payload left. At this point, I should apologize because I managed to forget my tripod at home, so let's just walk around. You can see that we have these really distinctive T-shaped tail lamp modules, and then there are actually little chevrons inside this tail lamp element pointing to each side. It's a really attractive design. Big Santa Cruz letters spelled out right there below. Just as you'd expect, a very truck-like bumper in the rear with some footholds right there so that we can climb up into the bed a little bit more easily. But up here we have one of the more interesting features, I think, which is a roller cargo cover. Automatically slides back right like that. This is an optional cover, and it does make the cargo area essentially waterproof. Now, they won't say completely waterproof, I guess I should say a little bit more water resistant, but a nice touch is this little tether right here. So if you need to pull that cover back because it is spring-loaded, you can actually close it right like that. This bed is about 10 inches shorter than most of the mid-sized trucks in America, so definitely keep that in mind. If you're looking for something that is 6-foot sized, you're not going to find it in here. Like the Honda Ridgeline, we have a small trunk area that is watertight right there under the load floor. So if you wanted to put things and keep them either cool, this can be used as a cooler. There's a little rubber stopper there that you can remove so that way the area drains. Or if you just want to keep things safe and dry, you can definitely keep them in that area as well. The cargo bed features additional tie downs on the inside on each side. There are also some available storage areas right there on each side of the cargo bed as well. There's LED lighting, and the tailgate is damped in the final model. In this particular model, it's not, but it will be by the final production version. There's a camera right back there integrated into the Hyundai logo at the back because this does have a 360-degree camera system available. This is one of the only trucks that offers that feature. In case you're wondering, there is a spare tire. It's a donut spare tire, and it's under this sort of in-trunk storage area rather than inside the storage area like we find in the Ridgeline. I actually think that's a bit more practical. Now, as far as my trunk comfort index goes, we do have a child release lever inside this little tiny cargo area, but I suspect the lid won't close. Nope, definitely not. Under the hood, there are going to be 2 different engines offered, a 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine and a traditional 8-speed automatic transmission, and then this engine right here, which is a 2.5-liter turbo, basically borrowed out of the Sonata N-Line. This is mated to an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission and all-wheel drive. If you get this combination, 2.5-liter turbo plus all-wheel drive, towing capacity goes up to 5,000 pounds maximum. The majority of this interior is borrowed out of the Tucson. Initially, I had suspected that perhaps this would be a little bit wider on the inside than the Tucson, but that's not the case. It's definitely longer, but not wider. So we have basically the same front seat design, which I recently spent about 2 hours in the brand new 2022 Tucson. The seat's pretty adjustable, but I do wish the seat bottom cushion was just a little bit longer. We also don't have 4-way adjustable lumbar support. But as far as seat comfort goes, I think these are definitely more comfortable than we find in the Frontier, the Ridgeline, and especially the Toyota Tacoma. And the seating position is certainly more crossover-like. So if you're looking for something that feels like a modern Tucson RAV4 CRV, etc., but has a pickup truck bed in the back, that's going to be this, and that's not necessarily going to be the Ridgeline. If you get the top-end version of the Santa Cruz, and that is definitely this model, then we have a touch that for some reason we don't find in many trucks at all: paddle shifters on the back. I really love that because it helps you maintain a speed downhill, especially if you plan on putting a trailer on your Santa Cruz. This has the available just over 10-inch instrument cluster and a 10-inch infotainment system right here in the dashboard. Basically the same setup that we find in the Tucson. Touch buttons for the infotainment system and climate control below. And again, the rest of the dashboard is borrowed out of the Tucson. That also means that we get features like heated, ventilated seats and a heated steering wheel in here, features that we don't find in too many trucks. In terms of style, really the major difference between this interior and the one that we find in the new Tucson is that instead of the Hunt and Peck style shifter, we have a console shifter that's a little bit more traditional in a truck with a manual mode, and then behind that we have some additional buttons in different places than we find in the Tucson. But aside from that, the bulk of the dashboard is very similar. Hyundai wasn't too specific about some of the interior dimensions in the Santa Cruz, so I don't know if these rear seats have been moved rearward or moved forward versus the Tucson, but it does feel a tiny bit tighter than the Tucson that I just was in. I suspect that interior room is going to be pretty similar, however, to something like a RAV4 or CRV. And the rear bench seat is going to be a little bit narrower than something like a Honda Ridgeline, because the Ridgeline is based on a Honda Pilot. This is based on the next category down, but still appears to be pretty comfortable. I can certainly sit right here in the middle seat, and I still have about 2 inches of headroom left because we have a pretty square profile, and even though this has a moonroof, the ceiling sort of ducks back in up there towards the top. Now, as you'd expect out of a truck, they're promising some under-seat storage area here. This is where we find the jack, the tire iron, a little storage cubby here, but likely because this is not a body-on-frame vehicle, we have a little bit of a hump, definitely more of a hump than we find in a rear-wheel drive truck. I have to say I'm really excited about the Santa Cruz because I love pragmatic, practical vehicles, and that is certainly what the Santa Cruz is. I'll be really interested to see if it ends up selling well, because for some reason truck shoppers are probably the least pragmatic shoppers when it comes to an inherently practical vehicle. And that's always blown my mind, to be perfectly honest, when it comes to most of the trucks in America. Vehicles like this, like the Ridgeline, are very, very rational. They fit an awful lot of people's needs. Clearly not all their needs. If you want to tow over 5,000 pounds, if you want to put a pallet of bricks in the back, that's not going to be the Santa Cruz. But you could buy one of these and then occasionally rent a full-size truck from your local Home Depot or Lowe's for that particular occasion. If you're more of an active outdoorsy person and you want to be able to put things like your dirt bikes in the back, your rock climbing gear, whatever it might be, and you don't want it to be in the cabin with you, this is going to be a great option. Just keep in mind the bed capacity is about 660 pounds, and the bed dimensions are going to be smaller than some of those other mid-sized trucks, especially the Honda Ridgeline, which has a seriously wide cargo area in the back. It is actually strangely wide. This appears to be a little bit deeper, so for runs to the Home Depot or Lowe's where you want to get things like potting soil, other small items like that, this is going to be absolutely perfect. And of course, for some of those longer items, you can always leave the tailgate down. Now, we don't know pricing on the Santa Cruz. I really hope that Hyundai prices this below any of the other mid-sized truck options, but at this moment, it's a little too early to tell. I suspect, however, it's going to be a bit more expensive than a Tucson. So if you're expecting this to be $25,000, I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's probably going to be a little bit closer to maybe $27,000 or $28,000. Obviously, we just don't know any pricing details yet. That's an absolutely wild guess just off the cuff right now. But if Hyundai could drive the price down to, say, $25,000 or $26,000, I think this will be even more impressive. Be sure and let me know what you think about all that down there in the comment section below. And of course, stay tuned because I will have my hands on one of these for a full review just as soon as possible. I'll see all of you later.